Okay, you would like to start 3D printing, and your very first question is probably what 3D printer you should buy. But that's not everything what you need to know before you start 3D printing. Okay, imagine you already bought the 3D printer. You have it on your table. Okay, you have your 3D printer. And what now? What will be your next steps? How you are going to print your very first item? And that's basically the reason why I'm creating this video. Number of people ask me if I could help them to start with 3D printing, and number of times I had to repeat myself over and over. So I decided to create this video where I explain everything, and I really hope that this video will help everyone who would like to start with 3D printing. It will cover all the essentials, what you need to know before you actually start 3D printing. So very first thing what you will need is the 3D printer, of course. And simply just buy Creality 3 version 2 3D printer. When I was deciding which of the 3D printers I should buy, I spent like hours watching all the kinds of videos. I was trying to find the best 3D printer, and basically this Creality 3 version 2 3D printer is the result of my research. Okay, there are many 3D printers, but this one is not expensive and it prints very well. Okay, so it is an ideal 3D printer to start with. Once you feel confident in 3D printing, then you can upgrade, you can buy different 3D printer, but this one is a really good 3D printer, and also it's not expensive. So perfect for experimenting, perfect for starting with 3D printing. I bought this 3D printer for my own money, so this is not an advertisement. By the way, I used to have also different 3D printer, which was like 3 times more expensive. And I can tell you this Creality 3D printer is like much better. And when I was looking for new 3D printer, I exactly knew what I would like to have there. So that's why that's why I chose the Creality based on my experience with this bad printer, which I had before. When you will be buying 3D printer, also buy filament. You really don't want to build your 3D printer and then buy the filament, because you have to wait another couple of days. Once you build your 3D printer, you would like to start 3D printing, okay? So when you will be buying 3D printer, at the same time buy filament. If you are not sure which one, filament is basically the plastic which you will need to 3D print the items, okay? So if you are not sure which filament to buy, there are many, then start with PETG. I tested a number of different filaments. PETG is something what I just keep using all the time now, because it doesn't smell. You may be surprised how much some of the other materials can smell. It's strong, and it doesn't bend when cooling down. This is something what you maybe will learn later, but sometimes when you print large objects and when they cool down, the item or the shape can kind of bend if you are using different kind of materials, okay? So PETG is quite good, and when it is cooling down, it's not bending like too much. You will have good quality prints. I use Verbatim brand. Very often I use clear or white color. Clear because sometimes I place, for example, LEDs into the things what I build, and then the light can go through the items. Or white because it's easy to paint it. Sometimes we would like to print some toys or characters or animals and you would like to paint it, if you use white basic color, then it's very easy to paint it, okay? If you would like to paint it, you can use acrylic colors. You will need filament with 1.75 diameter, that's very important. And very often I just use the filament with weight 1 kilogram. Now, also buy BL touch sensor for bed leveling and for bed leveling. Sometimes you may have bad leveling. Yeah. So I'm going to explain. Bed is the place where you are 3D printing, and it's like very important the bed is flat, okay? Because basically when you are printing for example very first layer, then you need to be sure that the distance between the head and the bed is always the same in every area where you are printing the first layer, because if it's not flat, for example, if it's like this, then the head may just scratch the surface of the bed in some places, and in the other places there will be it will be printing into air, and you can't print into air because then the print quality will be bad, or it just will not print properly. The bed has to be always flat. So that's why you need bed leveling, because bed leveling will help you to be sure that the bed is flat. And very expensive 3D printer, or more expensive 3D printers, they already have this automatic bed leveling built in. But because our printer is not expensive, we need to add this feature. Once you and this BLT sensor is going to help us with this, okay? Once you install the sensor, then basically what is happening during the auto leveling, the tip of the sensor will touch the bed in 9 different places. And based on these measurements, the software can find out if the bed of your 3D printer is flat or not. And if it's not flat, if it's, for example, like this, it can tweak the printing information so the bed looks like it is flat. So once you have this auto leveling set up correctly, then even if your bed is not flat, it will look like it is flat. Very cool feature, okay? And it will always print properly. Theoretically, you don't need auto leveling. You can do the manual bed leveling by adjusting the knobs which are under the bed, but you would need to do this regularly, okay? So it is not like one-time job, because after couple of times you print, you would need to do this bed leveling again, and it's kind of time-consuming, and it's just much easier to do or use auto leveling system. Auto bed leveling is much better. It is much easier. It is much faster, and very important, it is done automatically before every single printing. And that's why this BL Touch is like totally worth the money. Highly recommended. My first 3D printer, it didn't have any kind of auto leveling, and it was nightmare to use it. So trust me, auto leveling is a super important feature for good quality 3D printing. Once your 3D printer arrives, watch this tutorial to build it. It's super important to build it properly. Take your time, do not rush. I know you will maybe get your 3D printer and you will be excited and build it and just start printing. Take your time, okay? It must not be wobbly. Don't forget, when we are 3D printing, the resolution is around like 0.1 millimeter, or if you use imperial unit, it's 4 mils. So it's like super small. The accuracy is very small, and any wobbling could bring inaccuracy into your prints. Okay, so your 3D printer must be very solid when you finish it, when you build it. Once you build it, do bed leveling. At this stage, it is just manual bed leveling because we have not installed the BLT touch yet. Okay, for more information how to do this manual bed leveling, watch this video. But basically, you will need to use the knobs at the bottom of the bed to adjust the space between the bed and the head. And you will be using sheet of paper to be sure the head is very close to the bed in every position of the head. By the way, in the video, he will be moving the head by hand, but I rather use printer menu to move the head into X and Y positions, just to be sure that by accident you don't move the head in Z position. You really don't want to move it in Z position when you will be doing the bed leveling, okay? So if you like, you can do it exactly same way as I do it. Just use the menu to move the head in X and Y positions. Next, you will need to install Cura software on your PC. Everything what you will be printing will go through this Cura software. Installation is very easy, just follow the default steps, and by the end you will need to add your printer. Select Creality 3. Also add material. You can duplicate the default PETG and edit the parameters. For example, change the manufacturer to verbatim, set color to clean, but very important, you need to set the print temperature to 235 degrees and bed temperature to 90 degrees Celsius. Okay, you should find this information on the sticker of your filament. Next, test your 3D printer. So we are going to 3D print our very first item. Insert an SD card into the reader and connect the reader to your PC. As your very first item, you can print the BL Touch holder. This holder is sometimes not included in the kit what you will buy, so it may be something what you need to print. You can download the files on internet, drag and drop the file to Cura. Then be sure printer and filament is set correctly. Press slice button and then save it to the card. Press eject button and just in case wait 30 seconds. Couple of times I was too quick. I removed the SD card too quickly and all the files on the SD card were destroyed, and then I had to format the card and I lost everything what was on the card. So just be careful, okay, when you press the eject button, wait a little bit so it's safe and your PC will finish all the writing to SD card, everything what it needs to do. Once you remove the SD card from the reader, place the SD card into your 3D printer. Turn on 3D printer, then press print and select the holder file. Once it starts printing, double check if head temperature is set correctly to 235 and bed temperature is set to 90 degrees. Once the printing is finished, wait until the bed will cool down, okay? When it is finished with the 3D printing, do not try to remove the item from the bed. When the bed is very hot, the item will stick to the bed and you could damage your bed. You really don't want to damage the surface of the bed. So just wait until it cools down maybe to 50 degrees, or better wait until it cools down below 30 degrees, and then it will be like very easy to remove it from the bed. Very often you just pick it up, and it's like super useful feature. The surface on this Creality bed is special. In my older 3D printer, I spent so much time trying to remove the printed items. It was really like bad. Creality is much better in this. Now, you tested that your 3D printer is working, but we still need to add the BL touch. Watch this video, it will help you. Basically, you need to mount the sensor on your printer. Use the holder, what we just 3D printed. Then connect the sensor to the 3D printer controller board and update the firmware. Okay, we need to update the firmware so the board or the printer knows about this new sensor. Once this is done, you will need to find Z offset. You remember when we were talking about the auto leveling, and I explained a sensor will be touching your bed in 9 different places. You need to know the Z offset because the tip of the sensor is not in the same position as the head which is used to print. And then once you find this Z offset, you need to save these settings, and be very important, these settings are saved on the SD card which you have in your 3D printer. I will explain later why it is important. Once you find the Z offset, once you save it, you will also need to add auto leveling command at the beginning of each print, and this is done in the Cura software. Everything is explained in this video. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Under this video, you will also find a link to the firmware files in case you can find them. Be careful, as I said, be careful, the settings are saved on the SD card, and if you use different SD card, or if you format the SD card, the printer will lose the information about the Z offset, and it will use default settings, so it will not print properly. Just in case, copy the EEPROM file, that's the file with the settings. Copy this EEPROM file from the SD card to your PC, and then always copy this file to every single SD card which you will be using with your 3D printer. In case you lose this EEPROM file with the settings, you need to measure the Z offset again, okay? And then save the settings to create new EEPROM file. Finally, your 3D printer is ready. Yippee! Go to Thingiverse and find something what you would like to 3D print. Print different items. Print many different items. Initially, maybe scale them down so you don't waste too much filament when experimenting and learning. Some items will print perfectly fine without any experimentations or something. Some items are difficult to print. You will find out you need to do this, or you need to learn this by yourself. If you would like to design your own things, search for Fusion 360 Personal Use. It's a very cool software. This Fusion 360 is a very cool software, and there are many tutorials on YouTube. I have also done some tutorials which can help you to learn how to use it. If you like, you can watch them. When 3D printing, there are a couple of settings you may want to sometimes change or tweak in Cura. First, very important is build plate adhesion. So you will need this if the area touching the bed is too small. And when you are 3D printing, your item, for example, fell over. Okay, so in this case, you will need to enable the plate adhesion. Very often I just used raft. Next, you may need to get familiar with support. Support is needed if some parts of your model would otherwise print into the air. Okay, you can't really print into air. So if you can actually, when you will be in the Cura software, you can very simply check if there are some places which may possibly print into the air, and if you see these kind of places, then enable it. Very often I just use the default support, but I was also experimenting with support which is called tree support, and I use these tree supports for more complicated 3D prints. Always when you will be placing a model into Cura, think about how it is going to be 3D printed, okay? Find the best way how to rotate it. Sometimes when correctly rotated, you don't need to use support. And also sometimes when correctly rotated, the item you are printing will be stronger. When in your item are places what need to be strong, ideally you would like to place these horizontally. Again, you will learn this when you will be 3D printing. Now, troubleshooting. Occasionally may happen that the filament stops moving. So basically 3D printer looks like it's printing, head is moving, but nothing is going out of the head. It means the filament is stuck somehow. In this case, cancel the print, manually heat up the head to, I don't know, 240 or 245 degrees, so a little bit more than what you normally use for printing, and manually move the filament out. Once the filament is moving again, change the temperature to 0 to switch it off, and then try printing again. To prevent filament stops, I built this and this, and found it super useful. However, these holders are not essential, and you can 3D print also without these holders, okay? No problem. Also, what you may want to do occasionally is to clean the bed. So after you print a couple of items, maybe you will notice when you are printing something new, it doesn't stick properly to the bed. Then in this case, try to clean it. You can just use the soap for dishes, put there a drop of this soap, put there a little bit of water, and just clean the surface. Do not use alcohol. I tried alcohol and I noticed it may be damaging the surface of the bed, so I don't use alcohol, just use the soap for dishes. Before we finish, here are two useful tips. So first, buy a scalpel, something like this. It is cheap and super useful. My second tip is I added a beep sound at the beginning and at the end of the print. It's super useful because very often I sit in different room when I'm printing, and this way I can hear when printing starts and when it is finished. To add a beep into your 3D printing process, just add this code into your printer settings in Cura. And that's everything. I will put all the important links into the description under this video, and if anything changes, I will update these links, so be sure you check them. Thank you very much for watching and happy printing. Bye.